Sheriff Rob Maciol is on the phone with us right now from the Oneida County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff, welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you guys today?
Morning. Doing great. Obviously, the situation in San Bernardino is on everyone's minds. And yesterday, the Ulster County Sheriff there at that police office calling for registered gun owners to bring their guns into the streets if they want. How do you feel about that? And if a situation like that were to occur, are there rules for toting a gun in public?
Sure. Well, a couple things. First off, I am I'm a pro-gun guy. I'm a pro-Second Amendment guy. Obviously everyone's aware of that. Secondly, the biggest thing with us is those who are law-abiding, stable people, if they choose to bear arms, then by all means, that is their right. But with that comes a ton of responsibility, and that's the one thing I think we really want to expand on, because I'm a firm believer. I believe it's been said several times, certainly by the leader of the NRA and several other gun people, and I wholeheartedly agree that the only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. So again, certainly we support all that, but here specifically in Oneida County, we have about 24,000 pistol permit holders, actually more than 24,000, probably approaching the 25,000 mark, registered pistol permit holders. But many of them have restrictions, as they do across the entire state of New York. Some have, no restrictions on them at all. Some, they're stamped hunting. Some are stamped, target shooting. Some are stamped for, there are no restrictions. So, again, those people know what their restrictions are. And I think the most important thing is that you know how to use your weapon. I can give you, right off the top of my head, I can probably name 10 or 12 very close friends of mine who are pistol permit holders who probably haven't shot their guns in years, let alone even looked at them, okay? So, you want to keep that in mind. Then there are many pistol permit holders who have extensive law enforcement background. There are many pistol permit holders who have extensive military background. These are folks who, and then there are those who maybe not have police experience or law enforcement experience, but they're avid gun owners. They shoot all the time. They belong to to clubs. They're very familiar with their firearms. They're very familiar with the safety of using the firearms. But on top of that, going to the range and shooting a gun is one thing, or hunting with a gun is one thing. But when you're under a stressful situation, you revert back to your training. And obviously the concern we have is if you don't have that stressful training, then things in some cases could become worse than they are. So, with that being said, certainly those folks, they know who they are that can carry their permits, that those folks that don't have any of those restrictions, those folks who have the extensive training and the background and the familiarity with their weapons, they know who they are. You know what? For years, those people have been in our communities, carrying those guns, and most people don't know that. You know what I mean? This is nothing new. Those folks who are legally entitled and trained to carry their firearms. Let's look back a few years in New York Mills, one of the villages in Oneida County that's very quiet, low, very, 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 very low crime rate, very little happens. Gentleman walked into the AT&T store with the intentions of shooting a lot of people. And, luckily there was an off-duty police officer who was armed and trained. And, thank God for that, because if he wasn't there, we would have had 8 dead people on our hands that day. And he stopped that threat because he trains consistently in dealing with high-stress situations. I mean, not only are we on the range, but, on a regular basis, those in law enforcement. Here in Oneida County, we have the Homeland Security Office Training Center, state-of-the-art training facility, with their mock city. We just, as you know, a few weeks ago, we invited the press to come out. We had our fax machine demonstration where, members of the press were dealing with some high-stress situations on a simulator. Those are things we do all the time. So, certainly, you welcome someone being armed, but they need to know how to use that gun safely, and they need to know how to use it, under a stressful situation. Because some of the people, like I said, that are very close friends of mine, they'll tell you, by no means would they want to pull that gun out in a high stress situation, because they don't know how they're going to react. So I think it all reverts back to that. So I mean, with that being said, those folks know who they are. They know what they can and can't do. And you know what? We depend on those people all the time. Just like, even if we talk about unarmed people, I can't tell you, over my career, there's been many times where, a police officer's been struggling on the side of the road wrestling with someone, and folks from just general, the public, they stop and they help police. By all means, we welcome that all day long. But again, we don't want anyone to get hurt any more than that's already occurring, and we certainly don't want to, cause more of damage than what may have happened.
Oneida County Sheriff Rob Maciol joining us on the Talk of the Town.
I just, I think in the end of that, do you find it irresponsible, maybe a different way to put the statement and not have everybody out there with their guns? As you mentioned, there are certain types of holders and gun holders. Does this mean everybody's going to go out there that has a gun and maybe be carrying it around with them?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think if you take it very slow and read the Ulster County Sheriff's statement, he's got a lot of detail in there. But like I said, this is nothing new. I mean, our folks out in Oneida County throughout the community, those that are pistol permit holders, and they know who they are and they know what they can and can't do. And right. I have firm belief in that. Like I said, if someone is a law-abiding, stable citizen, then those are the folks who get their permits approved, and the pistol permit licensing officer, if he feels there needs to be restrictions on those, he puts them on or takes them off over time, whatever. That's their decision. I mean, we have no control over that. But like I said, we just want to stress that it's all about education and using that weapon and using it safely. And like I said, as I started here in our conversation, the only thing that's going to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, we don't care what police jurisdiction they have, or if it's someone who's off duty, or if it's someone who has the training in the background. Just like I said with the off-duty officer at AT&T, those are things that, because the police can't be everywhere. And statistically, these mass casualty shootings, they're over in 2 to 4 minutes. So there's no I don't care how many police officers you have on the street, the chances are you're not going to get anywhere in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? No matter where you are. So if there's someone there that's armed and trained, legally armed and properly trained in those situations, then they have that training. They're going to revert back to their instincts, and they're going to do what they got to do to save lives.
Sheriff, thanks for the time and the thoughts this morning. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, hopefully we see you next week as well.
Absolutely. We'll be paying you a visit with our annual drop-off.